Hello and welcome. My name's Ben and this is To The Point English. And today I'm going to be talking about the difference between the C1 Advanced and the C2 Cambridge English exams, also known as the CAE and CPE exams. Now, I'm guessing that as you've clicked on this video, you're in one of two groups of people. Either you have taken the C1 Advanced exam and you're thinking about taking the C2 Proficiency and you'd like to know how big the step up is from one exam to the other. Or maybe you've never taken a Cambridge exam before, but you have a good level of English and you're trying to decide which exam is the best one for you. Well, in this video, I hope to answer your doubts and your questions. But first of all, I must say that the C1 Advanced exam is very tough, right? It's challenging and very demanding. But the C2 Proficiency is fiendishly difficult. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that if many or maybe even most native English speakers took the exam tomorrow without preparation, they would fail. So really you need to be even better than a native English speaker in this exam, but you don't need to be perfect. Now that may seem like a contradiction, but let me explain. You need to be familiar with and comfortable using the type of vocabulary and grammar that really native English speakers don't use on a day-to-day basis. For example, fiendishly, that I used a few seconds ago. I think that's probably the first time I've ever used that word in my life. It's an impressive word, but it's not really a word native speakers use. But because your time is limited in this exam, and you need to demonstrate your level, you need to cram in as much impressive vocabulary and grammar as possible in the time you have available. But as I said, you don't have to be perfect. You're not going to get 100% in this exam. You will make mistakes, you will get answers wrong. This is not about perfection. Yes, the C2 Proficiency is the highest level in the Cambridge exams, and I think it's one of, if not the most difficult English exam in general. But yeah, you're not looking for perfection, so don't feel that pressure. But as I said, you need to almost be better than a native English speaker to demonstrate what a good level you have. So I just wanted to read what the Cambridge Assessment English says about this exam, so you get an idea of what's expected of you. Okay, so they say, it is our highest level qualification. It's proof that you are a highly competent speaker of English. So a C2 Proficiency qualification shows the world that you have mastered English to an exceptional level. It proves you can communicate with the fluency and sophistication of a highly competent English speaker. They also say that a C2 Proficiency qualification shows that you can negotiate and persuade effectively at senior management level in international business settings. Also, you understand the main ideas of complex pieces of writing, and you can talk about complex or sensitive issues. That's an important word, sensitive, which we'll look at more in a moment. And deal confidently with difficult questions. Okay, now I want to break it down into different sections to compare the two exams. First of all, grammar. Now, actually the grammar is not so different. In the C1 Advanced, you need to study all the grammar. You need to have a good command of all the grammar. And of course, in the C2 Proficiency, you also need to know all the grammar, all the different grammatical concepts and structures. The difference really is just that the grammar is more complex. It's a higher level of the grammar. So you'll need to study the conditionals, for example, as you need to study them in the C1 Advanced. But in the C2 Proficiency, there will be more, for example, mixed conditionals with alternatives to if, not always using if, alternatives to would, just more complicated grammatical structures. The same with passives and inversion, all those types of things that you need to study in the C1, but you need to study to a higher level in the C2 and just have a better command of the grammar. Now, the vocabulary next, and this is where there is a significant difference, really. And here it's not simply about using more advanced vocabulary. Of course, you will need to use more advanced vocabulary, but you also need to use the appropriate vocabulary, precise vocabulary, and sensitive vocabulary. So sensitive to the subject you're talking about. appropriate to the subject you're talking about and more precise than advanced. And of course, here I'm speaking about the writing and speaking papers of the exam, where you are using your English actively. So I'm just going to give you an example now to really demonstrate the difference between the advanced and the proficiency, referring to the vocabulary. So imagine you're answering a writing question, or it's in the speaking part of the exam, and you're speaking about the environment. Okay. Now an advanced learner may say this: I'm worried about climate change, therefore I try to reduce my carbon emissions as much as possible. Okay, that's pretty good. That's a grammatically perfect sentence. It uses some quite impressive vocabulary. But a proficiency learner would say this, for example: climate change for me is a major issue in today's global society. I strive to cut down my carbon footprint by incorporating a variety of measures into my day-to-day life. Okay, so can you see the difference there? This learner, this candidate has used much more impressive vocabulary. It's more specific, more precise, and it's more sensitive to the subject that we are talking about. So that's the kind of thing you should be aiming for. So learning that kind of vocabulary. Of course, you don't know the subject you're going to be speaking about in the exam, so you just need to prepare in general. Okay, now let's look at the pronunciation. Obviously, this is referring to the speaking part of the exam. It's quite often a misconception about the pronunciation in the Cambridge exams in general, but the proficiency and advanced in particular. It's okay to have an accent. Okay, everybody has an accent. I have an accent. You have your own local accent. This is an English exam, it's a Cambridge exam, but if you speak English with more of an American accent or an Australian accent, that's fine. You will not be penalized for that. It's completely accepted. And even if you have a strong French accent, if you're French or Italian or German or Chinese, if you speak with a strong accent, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to worry about your accent, as long as you speak clearly enough to be understood. Okay, that's the key. There's a difference between pronunciation and accent. The examiner needs to be able to understand you. If your accent is so strong that it's difficult to follow what you're saying, then you have a problem. But at an advanced or proficiency level, that shouldn't be a problem. So there's not a big difference there between advanced and proficiency with pronunciation. Finally, I want to look at listening. And the big difference in the listening is that the conversations you will hear are more natural, closer to the real English, so that the speakers speak much more quickly and more fluently, and they use more complex vocabulary. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I notice people make when they decide to take the advanced or the proficiency exam is being overconfident, being a little bit cocky, because maybe they have a very high level of English, but they don't prepare enough for the exam, and often they fail for that reason. It's not enough to have a high level, you need to prepare. And one of the best ways of preparing is to find other people who are preparing for the same exam to help each other, and maybe prepare the speaking together, to practice the speaking in particular, or just helping each other with tips and advice. And I have some good news on that, because last week I set up a Telegram group for people who are preparing for the exams. In fact, it's 4 groups. I have the general group, the general chat group, which everybody is in, and then a group for each of the Cambridge exams. So the B2 first, the C1 advanced, and the C2 proficiency. So people with the same level can chat and share information. And it's great. At the moment, we're still quite small, but people are very active and participative, and it's going really well. I really recommend that you join, because you can get so much benefit from it. I'll put the link in the description. You may ask, why Telegram? Well, Telegram, apparently it's more secure. It's safer than WhatsApp, and you don't need to share your telephone number. So you join the group and nobody will know your telephone number. You just join the group and you can communicate there. And it's very good for forming different groups. So I hope to build a community there. It's going well so far. I would love to see you there. So click on the link, send me a message with the exam you're studying for, and I'll put you in the appropriate groups. Okay, so I hope this was useful for you, and I hope to see you again very soon in another video. Take care, bye.